What a farmer needs to know to determine how well his crop's going to grow or whether or not he has enough water is he needs to understand how much water his soil can hold and how much water is actually contained in the soil down to the depth of the roots of his crop. The best way to measure that is obviously to take an auger a hole down into the soil and determine how much water is contained in the soil. Everybody's not going to want to auger a hole very often, and consequently we're looking for alternate higher tech means of determining the amount of water in the soil. And one of those means is to use a soil moisture monitor. This probe, this is actually a radial probe. There's two electrodes, one down the center and one that wraps around it. It's a resistance device that you put down in the soil, and it comes to equilibrium with the soil moisture, and the resistance that you measure on the wires then becomes an indication of the soil moisture or the water content of the soil. So what we intend to do here today is we'll auger 3 holes, and we'll put 3 of these sensors in at 3 different depths. In this case we'll put one at 4 feet, one at 30 inches, and one at 15 inches. And then we can measure the soil moisture at those depths and determine the available water content of the soil. When we put this sensor in, we would like it to be fully saturated, and so we'll drop it in a bucket of water and let it saturate while Tony drills his first hole to 4 feet. Now with the moisture sensor fully saturated, it's ready to put in the ground, and Gina will lower it into the ground to the level of depth of the hole that we've made, which is 4 feet. That'll center the probe over the 4 foot area. It's important that it's saturated, and we'll get everything even more saturated. It'll probably take a day or two before this thing reads correctly, before it all equalizes. Now we're going to mix some soil together here and make some soil slurry, and dump that in around the sensor to pack it in and make sure that the soil in the soil ultimately becomes exactly the same, or as nearly as possible, as the soil in the sensor. Hopefully that's enough to fill the auger hole up above the top of the sensor. And then we'll follow in with the soil in the same order it came out of the hole. Periodically we'll stop and tap the soil in place to make sure there are no voids around there. We certainly want to make sure that water from irrigation does not channel down the hole and artificially raise the recorded moisture on the sensor. Gina is holding the wire with a slight tension on it to make sure that the sensor is up and down. So now we have the first sensor installed. We'll auger 2 more holes and put in 2 more sensors. This one's at 4 feet, the next one will be at 30 inches, and the last one will be at 15 inches from the surface. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark the depth of the next sensor. The depth is about 3.5 inches long, so we want the center at 30 inches. We'll put a mark at roughly 32 inches. That's how deep we'll dig the hole. We'll dig all these holes so they're probably about 1 foot away from each other. The important thing is that you don't cut one into the other, and so just make the spacing wide enough so that doesn't happen. Now as we auger this hole again, we'll keep the soil in the order it comes out of the hole so we can put it back in the same order. Now all 3 sensors have been installed in the ground. We've backfilled them and tamped them. They should be pretty well isolated from each other and should be in a position in the soil where the moisture in the sensor will become relatively consistent with the moisture in the surrounding soil. The deepest one, of course, has the shortest lead sticking out. This is 48 inches, 30 inches, 15 inches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dig a little channel and get all these leads together, and we're going to hook them up to some common phone wire, some category 5 network wire, which we'll bury just a few inches under the ground to where we're going to put our data recorder. Now so we'll be able to find these wires if in the case that we were going to use a handheld, Or in the case that we need to come out and do repairs, we're going to take a GPS point and we'll just mark where it is so we can come back and find it.